Document. Part 6. The work on the starship became a daily routine for the team, though it was anything but ordinary. Each day brought new challenges as they navigated the ship's intricate systems, piecing together fragments of its design using a mix of human ingenuity and Virac technology. The glowing crystals Alex and Sam carried served as keys, activating dormant mechanisms and revealing hidden compartments within the vessel. It was slow, painstaking labor, but progress was being made. Alex Carter spent most of his time in the engine room, a vast chamber filled with alien machinery that hummed faintly even in its damaged state. The walls were lined with glowing conduits that pulsed in sync with the marks on his skin. Whenever he touched one of the conduits, images flooded his mind: blueprints, schematics, and instructions written in a language he didn't understand, but somehow instinctively knew how to follow. It was as if the ship itself was guiding him, teaching him what he needed to know. Emily Dawson worked alongside him, documenting everything they discovered. Her notebook quickly filled with sketches and notes about the ship's layout, its power, sources, and the strange symbols etched into its surfaces. "This is unlike anything we've ever seen," she said one afternoon, her voice tinged with awe. "Why, it's like the ship is alive, or at least partially so." Alex nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "I think you're right. Sometimes it feels like it's responding to us." Meanwhile, Sam Miller focused on repairing the navigation system, which had been heavily damaged. He worked closely with a group of Virac engineers who communicated through gestures and telepathic impressions rather than words. Despite the language barrier, their collaboration was surprisingly effective. Together, they managed to restore partial functionality to the ship's controls. Though much of it remained unstable, Dr. Laura Bennett oversaw the operation, ensuring everyone stayed focused and coordinated. She also kept a close eye on tensions within the team, particularly from Dr. Ryan Brooks, whose skepticism hadn't waned. Ryan often voiced concerns about the risks involved, questioning whether they were truly helping the Virac or simply playing into some larger plan. "We don't know what will happen once this thing is operational," he argued during one heated discussion. "What if it turns against us?" "It won't," Alex insisted, though even he couldn't fully explain why he felt so certain. "The Virac aren't our enemies. They've trusted us this far. We have to trust them back." Laura intervened before the argument could escalate further. "Let's focus on the task at hand," she said firmly. "We can debate the implications later." Despite the progress, the strain of the mission began to show. Long hours in the cavern left the team physically and mentally exhausted. Supplies were running low, and tempers flared more frequently. Even Alex, who had initially been optimistic, found himself struggling to stay positive. The glowing marks on his skin continued to throb painfully, especially when he worked on particularly complex parts of the ship. At night, his dreams grew darker, filled with warnings of failure and betrayal. One evening, after another long day of repairs, Alex sat alone by the edge of the cavern, staring at the crystals in his hand. Their light flickered softly, almost sympathetically, as if acknowledging his doubts. He wondered if he was doing the right thing, if humanity was truly ready for the responsibility the Virac were placing on them. "You look troubled," a voice said behind him. Alex turned to see Emily approaching, her face illuminated by the dim glow of the crystals. She sat down beside him, offering him a small smile. "You've been pushing yourself too hard. You need to rest." "I can't," Alex replied, shaking his head. "Every time I close my eyes, I see visions of what could go wrong. What if we mess this up? What if Earth finds out and tries to take control?" Emily placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We can't let fear stop us. Yes, there are risks, but there's also hope. Think about what this could mean not just for the Virac, but for us too. If we succeed, it proves that humanity is capable of something greater." Alex sighed, looking down at the crystals again. "I just wish I knew for sure that we're making the right choice." "Sometimes you don't get certainty," Emily said gently. "You just have to trust your instincts and the people around you." Her words stayed with Alex as he returned to the campsite that night. For the first time in days, he allowed himself to sleep without fighting the visions that came with it. In his dream, he saw the starship launching into the sky, carrying both humans and Virac toward a brighter future. But the image shifted suddenly, replaced by scenes of conflict. Earth's military arriving, demanding control of the ship, and the Virak retreating in fear. When he woke up, his heart was racing, and the glowing marks on his skin burned brighter than ever. The next morning, Alex shared his dream with Laura and Emily. They listened quietly, their expressions growing increasingly concerned. "It sounds like a warning," Laura said finally. "Maybe we should prepare for the possibility that Earth Command might intervene." "But how?" Emily asked. "If we tell them about the ship now, they'll send reinforcements and we'll lose control of the situation." Alex nodded, his mind racing. "We need to finish the repairs before anyone else finds out. Once the ship is operational, we'll have leverage. We can negotiate terms with Earth, make sure they understand the importance of cooperation." Laura hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "All right, but we'll need to move faster. We'll need to keep this between us for now." Over the next few days, the pace of work intensified. The team pushed themselves harder than ever, working late into the night to complete the remaining repairs. The Virak elders appeared more frequently, watching silently as if lending their support. Their presence was comforting, a reminder that they weren't alone in this endeavor. Finally, after weeks of effort, the moment arrived. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place, a glowing crystal slotted into the heart of the ship's core. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then a low hum filled the cavern, growing louder and stronger until the entire ship vibrated with energy. Lights flickered on across its surface, bathing the cavern in a soft, ethereal glow. "It's working," Sam whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. "We did it." The team erupted into cheers, hugging each other and laughing with relief. Even Ryan cracked a rare smile, though his expression remained cautious. Alex stood back, watching the ship come to life with a mixture of pride and apprehension. They had done the impossible, but the hardest part was yet to come. As the celebrations died down, Alex noticed movement near the entrance of the cavern. A group of Virak elders had gathered, their glowing patterns shimmering softly. One of them stepped forward, extending a hand toward Alex. Without hesitation, he accepted it. Feeling a surge of warmth and gratitude flow between them, "They're thanking us," Emily said, her voice choked with emotion, "for trusting the man, for believing in their vision." But as Alex looked around at his teammates, he couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. The ship was ready. Yes, but the choices they would face next would test not only their resolve, but the very foundation of trust between two species. And deep down, Alex knew that the decisions they made in the coming days would shape the future of both humanity and the Virak forever. This concludes part 6 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional parts. Document. Part 1. The ship descended slowly through the thick atmosphere of the alien planet, its engines humming softly as it approached the surface. The crew inside was tense but excited, their faces illuminated by the faint glow of control panels and monitors. They had traveled light years to reach this distant world, a place known only as Virak Prime. It was home to a mysterious species called the Virak. Tall beings with shimmering bioluminescent skin that pulsed gently like living stars. For decades, humanity had tried to make contact with them, but the Virak had always remained aloof. Watching from afar without ever engaging, Alex Carter leaned forward in his seat, his eyes scanning the view screen as the planet came into focus. He was a biologist, one of the scientists chosen for this mission, and he couldn't help feeling both thrilled and nervous about what lay ahead. Next to him sat Emily Dawson, an anthropologist, who shared his curiosity about the Virak. Her dark hair was tied back neatly, and she clutched a notebook filled with questions she hoped to answer during their stay. The two had worked together before, and they trusted each other completely, but even so, neither could shake the sense of unease that hung over the cabin. The ship touched down on a wide, grassy plain surrounded by towering trees. Their landing site had been carefully selected based on months of reconnaissance. It was close enough to a Virak settlement to allow for observation, but far enough away to avoid provoking any hostility. As the engines powered down, the crew began preparing to disembark. Each member carried equipment tailored to their roll cameras, sampling kits, communication devices all designed to gather data while minimizing disruption. When the ramp lowered, Alex stepped out first, taking a deep breath of the crisp, unfamiliar air. The sky above was a swirling mix of purples and blues, dotted with clouds that seemed to shimmer faintly. The ground beneath his boots was soft and springy, covered in lush green vegetation unlike anything found on Earth. In the distance, he could see the outlines of strange structure-style spires made of smooth, iridescent material that reflected the light in mesmerizing patterns. Those were the Virak's homes, or at least part of them. "Stay alert," said Dr. Laura Bennett. The mission leader, her voice steady but firm. She stood near the ship's entrance, scanning the horizon with a pair of binoculars. "We don't know how they'll react if they see us." The team nodded, adjusting their gear and forming a loose line as they moved forward. They walked cautiously, careful not to disturb the plants or animals around them. After about 20 minutes, they reached the edge of a dense forest. The trees here were enormous, their trunks glowing faintly with the same bioluminescence as the Virak themselves. Shadows danced across the ground, cast by leaves that looked almost translucent. It was then that they saw a tall group of Virak standing among the trees, watching silently. There were 4 of them, taller than humans by at least a foot, their slender bodies wrapped in flowing robes that shifted colors with every movement. Their faces were serene, with large, almond-shaped eyes that glowed faintly. One of them held something in their arms, a small, wriggling shape that Alex realized was a cub. For a moment, no one moved. The tension in the air was palpable, and Alex felt his heart pounding in his chest. He knew how dangerous this moment could be. The Virak were notoriously protective of their young, rarely allowing anyone, even members of their own species, to come near them. Any sudden movement or misstep could trigger an aggressive response. But instead of retreating or showing signs of hostility, one of the Virak stepped forward. It was a female, her features softer than those of the others, and she extended her arms slightly, offering the cub toward Sam Miller, another member of the team. Everyone froze, unsure of what to do. Sam hesitated, glancing back at Laura for guidance. But when she gave a slight nod, he slowly approached the Virak. As Sam took the cub into his arms, the entire team held their breath. The cub was warm and surprisingly light, its tiny body glowing faintly, just like its parents. It let out a soft, cooing sound, and Sam smiled nervously, cradling it gently. The Virak mother watched intently, her expression unreadable. Then, after a few moments, she stepped back, signaling for Sam to return. The cub, he did so carefully, and the Virak accepted it without hesitation. No one spoke as the aliens turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving the humans stunned. Alex exchanged a glance with Emily, who looked equally bewildered. Why would the Virak allow a human to hold one of their cubs? It made no sense. These creatures were supposed to be fiercely protective of their offspring, yet they had shown an unexpected level of trust. Over the next hour, the team debated what had just happened. Some suggested it might have been a test, a way for the Virak to gauge humanity's intentions. Others thought it could be a cultural gesture, though none of them understood its significance. Whatever the reason, it left everyone uneasy and curious. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the forest grew darker, Alex sat alone outside the temporary campsite. He stared up at the alien sky, his mind racing with possibilities. Something about the encounter didn't sit right with him. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the Virak's actions than met the eye. Little did he know, this was only the beginning of a journey that would change everything he thought he knew about life. Trust and the bonds that connect all intelligent beings. This concludes part 1 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional parts. Document. Part 2. The next morning, the team woke up to a sky painted in shades of orange and pink. The air was cool and crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of something floral that none of them could identify. Alex Carter sat by the campfire, poking at the embers with a stick. He hadn't slept well the night before. His mind kept replaying the scene from the previous day. The Virak mother handing her cub to Sam Miller. The strange glow of their skin, the way they had watched silently, as if studying every move the humans made. Emily Dawson joined him a few minutes later, clutching a steaming mug of coffee. She looked tired too, but there was a spark of excitement in her eyes. "Did you think about what happened yesterday?" she asked, sitting down beside him. "Hard not to," Alex replied, tossing the stick into the fire. "It doesn't make sense. Why would they let Sam hold one of their cubs? They're supposed to be so protective." Emily nodded thoughtfully. "Maybe it wasn't random. Maybe they chose him for a reason." Alex frowned. "Chose him? What do you mean?" "I don't know," Emily admitted. "Got about it. Out of all of us, Sam was the one they approached." "Why him and not someone else, like Dr. Bennett? Or even you?" Alex hesitated, glancing back toward the forest where the Virak had disappeared. He hadn't considered that possibility before. Could it have been deliberate? And if so, what did it mean? Later that day, the team decided to explore further into the forest. They wanted to learn more about the Virak's environment and perhaps even find traces of their settlement. Armed with cameras and recording devices, they ventured deeper into the woods, careful to avoid disturbing anything along the way. As they walked, Alex noticed something unusual. Every now and then, he caught glimpses of glowing symbols etched into the bark of the trees. They were faint, almost invisible unless you looked closely. But they seemed deliberate patterns of swirls and lines that pulsed softly like the Virak themselves. He pointed them out to Emily, who immediately began sketching them in her notebook. "These could be important," she whispered, her voice tinged with awe. "They might be some kind of communication system. More, maybe markers." Alex nodded, running his fingers over one of the symbols. It felt warm to the touch, almost alive. For a brief moment, he thought he heard a low hum, like a distant melody. But when he turned to ask Emily if she'd heard it too, the sound vanished. By mid-afternoon, the team stumbled upon another group of Virak. This time, there were more. Of them about a dozen, and they stood in a loose circle around what appeared to be a small clearing. In the center of the circle was another cub, its tiny body glowing brighter than any of the adults. One of the Virak elders, a tall figure, with intricate patterns glowing across their robes, gestured toward Sam once again. Sam hesitated, looking back at the rest of the team. Laura Bennett gave him an encouraging nod, though her expression remained cautious. Slowly, Sam approached the elder and took the cub into his arms. As soon as he did, the other Virak began to hum softly, their voices blending together in a haunting harmony. The sound sent shivers down Alex's spine, and he instinctively reached for his camera to record the moment. But then, something unexpected happened. Another Virak stepped forward, this time offering the cub to Alex. He froze, unsure of what to do. No one else had been approached except Sam, and he didn't understand why they would suddenly choose him now. After a long pause, he cautiously accepted the cub, cradling it gently against his chest. The cub cooed softly, nuzzling closer to him, and Alex felt an odd warmth spreading through his arms. It wasn't just physical warmth. It was something deeper, almost like a connection forming between him and the tiny creature. He glanced at Emily, who was watching intently, her pen hovering over her notebook. "What's happening?" He mouthed silently. She shook her head, equally baffled. Back at the campsite that evening, Alex couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. He replayed it over and over in his mind, trying to make sense of it. Something about holding the cub had felt different. Not bad exactly, but strange. As he sat by the fire, he rolled up his sleeve absent-mindedly and froze. There, on his forearm, was a faint glowing marca, swirling pattern identical to the ones he'd seen carved into the trees earlier. "Emily," he called out, his voice sharp with alarm. She hurried over, her brow furrowing as she saw the mark. "When did that appear?" "Don't know," Alex said, rubbing at it instinctively, though it didn't fade. "I didn't notice it until just now." Emily grabbed her notebook and began jotting down notes. "This has to be connected to the cub." Maybe touching it triggered something, but what does it mean? Alex asked, his voice tinged with worry. Is it dangerous? Don't think so, Emily replied after a moment. If it were harmful, I think we would have seen signs by now. But this feels significant, like they're trying to communicate with us somehow. Over the next few days, the same thing kept happening. Whenever the team encountered the Virak, certain individuals, including Alex and Sam, were allowed to hold the cubs. Each time, new marks appeared on their skin, glowing faintly beneath the surface. Other members of the team, like Laura and Dr. Ryan Brooks, were ignored entirely, which only added to the mystery Alex started having. Vivid dreams at night. In them, he found himself standing in vast cities filled with towering spires and glowing pathways. Starships drifted lazily across alien skies, and voices whispered in languages he couldn't understand. Sometimes he saw flashes of the Virak, their faces serene yet filled with sadness. Other times, he witnessed scenes of destruction cities, crumbling, skies burning, entire civilizations vanishing in an instant. When he woke up, the images lingered in his mind, leaving him disoriented and uneasy. He mentioned the dreams to Emily, who listened carefully before suggesting that they might be linked to the glowing marks. It's possible, she said. If the Virak are using some kind of biological technology, these marks could be transmitting information directly into your brain. The dreams might be fragments of their history or warnings. Warnings about what? Alex asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to hear the answer. Emily hesitated. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's big. As the days passed, tensions began to rise within the team. Some members, like Ryan, grew increasingly suspicious of the Virak's intentions. Why are they singling us out? He demanded during one heated discussion. What if this is some kind of experiment, or worse, a trap? Laura tried to calm him down, reminding everyone that they were here to observe and learn, not jump. 2 conclusions. But her words did little to ease the growing unease among the crew. Even Alex found himself questioning whether they were truly safe. One evening, as the sun set behind the forest, Alex sat alone by the edge of the campsite, staring at the glowing marks on his arm. They pulsed faintly, almost rhythmically, as if responding to his thoughts. Couldn't shake the feeling that the Virak were trying to tell him something important. But he didn't yet have the tools to understand it. Little did he know, the answers were closer than he realized, and soon he would be forced to confront truths that would challenge everything he believed about humanity. Trust in the fragile bonds that connect all living beings. This concludes part 2 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional parts. Document part 3. The days blurred together as the team continued their exploration of Virak Prime. Each encounter with the Virak left Alex Carter feeling more confused and more intrigued. The glowing marks on his skin had grown brighter, spreading across his arms and chest in intricate patterns that seemed to shift slightly whenever he moved. At first, they had been faint and easy to ignore, but now they were impossible to overlook. They pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat, and Alex couldn't help but wonder if they were alive in some way. Emily Dawson spent most of her time studying the marks, sketching them into her notebook and comparing them to the symbols she'd seen carved into the trees. Now, she was convinced there was a connection between the two, though she hadn't figured out exactly what it meant yet. It's like they're writing something on you, she said one evening as the team gathered around the campfire, but I don't think it's random. There's a pattern here. Alex nodded, rubbing at the marks absent-mindedly. He didn't like the idea of being written on or whatever was happening to him, but he couldn't deny that it felt important. The dreams he'd been having grew stronger each night, too. Scenes of alien cities, starships, and ancient rituals filled his mind, leaving him exhausted when he woke up. Sometimes he even swore he could hear voices whispering faintly in the background, though he never understood what they were saying. One afternoon, while exploring a particularly dense part of the forest, the team came across a group of Virak, gathered near a massive tree. Its trunk was wider than any Alex had ever seen, its surface covered in glowing runes that shimmered like liquid light. The Virak stood in a circle around the tree, humming softly in unison. Their voices created a haunting melody that echoed through the forest, making the air feel heavy with emotion Alex hesitated, unsure whether they should approach. But before he could say anything, one of the Viracan elder, with glowing patterns, etched into their robes, stepped forward and gestured for Alex and Sam to come closer. The rest of the team stayed back, watching nervously as the two men walked toward the group. When Alex reached the elder, they extended their hand, placing it gently on his forehead. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a surge of energy coursed. Through him, bright and overwhelming, images flooded his mind, scenes of destruction, of planets burning, civilizations crumbling under the weight of their own mistakes. He saw the Virac fleeing their homeworld, carrying their cubs to safety, their faces filled with sorrow and determination. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the vision ended. Alex stumbled backward, gasping for breath. His heart raced and his skin tingled where the elder had touched him. Sam looked equally shaken, clutching his head as if trying to steady himself. What? What was that? Alex managed to ask, his voice trembling. The elder didn't respond verbally. Instead, they placed a glowing crystal into Alex's hand. It was warm to the touch, pulsating with the same rhythm as the marks on his skin. As soon as he held it, Alex felt a strange sense of calm wash over him, as if the crystal were soothing his racing thoughts. They're trying to show us something, Sam whispered, holding a similar crystal in his own hand. But I don't know what it means. Back at the campsite that evening, Alex and Sam shared what had happened with the rest of the team. Laura Bennett listened carefully, her expression unreadable. When they finished, she crossed her arms and sighed heavily. This changes things, she said finally. The Virac are sharing their history with you. It means they trust you, or at least they see you as important. But why us? Alex asked, frustration creeping into his voice. Why not someone else? Why not you? Laura shook her head. I don't know, but we need to be careful. We're giving you access to their memories, or whatever those visions were. It's because they expect something in return. Expect what? Emily chimed in, her pen poised over her notebook. What could they possibly want from us? No one had an answer. The question hung in the air, unanswered, as the team sat in silence. Alex stared at the crystal in his hand, its glow flickering softly. He wanted to believe that the Virac's intentions were good, but the uncertainty gnawed at him. What if this was all part of some larger planet test, or even a trap? Over the next few days, Alex and Sam began experiencing strange side effects from the crystals. They found themselves drawn to certain areas of the forest, as if guided by an invisible force. Whenever they followed these impulses, they discovered more glowing symbols carved into the trees, along with fragments of technology half buried in the ground. Some of the devices looked ancient, their surfaces cracked and worn, while others appeared almost new, humming faintly with energy. Emily theorized that the Virac were leading them to something important, perhaps a hidden archive or a relic of their past. They're showing you the way, she said one evening, as the team examined a particularly intricate piece of machinery they'd uncovered. But they're not telling you everything. You'll have to figure out the rest on your own. Alex wasn't sure how he felt about that. On one hand, he was grateful for the Virac's trust, or whatever it was. On the other hand, he hated feeling like a pawn in some larger game he didn't fully understand. Things came to a head one night when Alex woke up to find the glowing marks on his skin brighter than ever. They pulsed rapidly, almost painfully, and he felt a strange pull deep within his chest. Without thinking, he grabbed the crystal and slipped out of the tent. Following the sensation that tugged at him like an invisible thread, he wandered through the forest, his footsteps silent on the soft ground. The trees seemed to guide him, their glowing symbols lighting the way. After what felt like hours, he arrived at a clearing he'd never seen before. In the center of the clearing stood a massive structure, a dome made of smooth, iridescent material that reflected the light. Of the stars above, it hummed faintly, vibrating with energy. Before Alex could decide what to do, Sam appeared beside him, looking equally startled. I felt it too, he said quietly, like something was calling me. Together, they approached the dome cautiously. As they drew closer, the hum grew louder, resonating in their chests. The glowing marks on their skin flared brightly, sinking. With the rhythm of the dome's vibrations, a doorway opened silently, revealing a dimly lit chamber inside. Alex hesitated, glancing back at Sam. "Do we go in?" Sam nodded. "We don't really have a choice, do we?" Taking a deep breath, Alex stepped inside. The chamber was vast, filled with rows of crystalline structures that glowed faintly. In the center of the room stood a pedestal atop which rested another crystal larger and more intricate than the ones they'd been given. As Alex approached it, he felt a wave of recognition, as if he'd seen it before in one of his dreams. "This is it," he murmured, reaching out to touch the crystal. "This is what they want us to find." But as his fingers brushed against its surface, a flood of memories surged into his mind, not his own, but those of the Virac. He saw their struggles, their triumphs, their sacrifices. He saw how they had once thrived among the stars, only to lose everything due to a catastrophic mistake. And he saw their hope that humanity might help them reclaim what they had lost. When the vision faded, Alex collapsed to his knees, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of what he'd experienced. Sam knelt beside him, pale and shaken. "Do you understand now?" he asked softly. Alex nodded, though his mind was still reeling. "They need our help," he said. "But I don't know if we can give it." As they left the chamber and returned to the campsite, Alex knew one thing for certain. The Virac's trust came with a price, one that humanity might not be ready to pay. This concludes part 3 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional parts. Document. Part 4. The next morning, Alex Carter woke up feeling different. The glowing marks on his skin had dimmed slightly, but they still pulsed faintly, as if alive. His mind was heavy with the memories he'd seen in the dome visions, of the Virac's past, their struggles, and their desperate hope for the future. He sat by the campfire, staring into the flames, trying to make sense of everything. Emily Dawson joined him after a while, holding a cup of coffee. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said gently, sitting beside him. "I didn't," Alex admitted, rubbing his temples. "I've been thinking about what we saw last night, about what the Virac showed us." Emily nodded, her expression serious. "Do you think they're asking us to help them rebuild, or is it something else?" "I don't know," Alex replied, shaking his head. "But whatever it is, it's big. Bigger than just us. Bigger than this team." Before Emily could respond, Dr. Laura Bennett approached, her face tense. She held a small device in her hand, a tablet displaying classified documents marked with Earth's government seal. "We need to talk," she said quietly, glancing around to make sure no one else was listening. Alex and Emily exchanged uneasy looks before following Laura to a secluded spot near the edge of the campsite. When they were alone, Laura handed the tablet to Alex. "I found these buried in the mission logs," she explained. "They weren't supposed to be shared with anyone outside of command." Alex scanned the documents, his stomach sinking as he read. The files revealed that humanity hadn't come to Virac Prime purely for scientific exploration. While the official story was one of peaceful research, the truth was far more complicated. Earth's government had sent the team not only to study the Virac, but also to assess whether they posed any threat or whether their technology could be exploited. "Exploited?" Emily asked, her voice sharp with disbelief. "You mean they wanted us to spy on them?" Laura nodded grimly. "Exactly. What if the Virac turned out to be vulnerable? There were plans to intervene. Colonization was even mentioned as a possibility." Alex felt a cold knot form in his chest. He thought back to the trust the Virac had shown him and Sam, the way they had allowed humans to hold their cubs, the visions they had shared, the crystals they had given them. If Earth's government discovered what Alex and Sam now knew, it could destroy everything the Virac had worked for, and everything Alex had come to believe about their intentions. "What do we do?" Emily asked, breaking the silence. "If this gets out, it could ruin everything." "We can't let that happen," Alex said firmly. "Not yet. Not until we understand what they want from us and why they trusted us." Laura hesitated, then nodded. "Agreed. For now, we keep this between us." The marks or the crystals were in trouble. Later that day, tensions within the team began to rise. Some members, like Dr. Ryan Brooks, grew increasingly suspicious of Alex and Sam. They noticed how often the Virac singled them out and questioned why certain individuals were being treated differently. During a heated discussion over lunch, Ryan voiced his concerns loudly. "Why are they only approaching you two?" he demanded, pointing at Alex and Sam. "What makes you so special?" "It's not like we asked for this," Sam shot back, his tone defensive. "They're the ones choosing who to interact with." "That's exactly my point," Ryan replied. "How do we know this isn't some kind of manipulation? How do we know they're not using you to get to us?" Alex clenched his fists under the table, struggling to stay calm. He wanted to defend himself, to explain everything he'd learned, but he couldn't risk revealing the truth. Not yet. Instead, he forced a neutral smile and said, "We're just doing our jobs, same as everyone else. If the Virac have a reason for singling us out, maybe we'll figure it out eventually." Ryan didn't look convinced, but the conversation ended there. Still, the unease lingered, spreading through the group like wildfire. Even Laura seemed distracted, her usual confidence replaced by a quiet tension. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alex and Emily took a walk through the forest. They needed space to think, away from the prying eyes and ears of the rest of the team. The glowing symbols on the trees lit their path, casting soft, shifting patterns on the ground. "This whole thing feels wrong," Emily said after a long silence. "We came here to learn about them, not to spy on them. And now we're caught in the middle of something we didn't sign up for." "I know," Alex replied, running a hand through his hair. "But we can't turn back now. We owe it to the Virac to figure this out, to see if there's a way to help them without betraying our own people." Emily nodded slowly. "Do you think the others will understand if we tell them? Or will they side with Earth's government?" "I don't know," Alex admitted. "But I think we should try. At least some of them might listen." As they walked, the forest seemed quieter than usual, as if holding its breath. Then, suddenly, Alex stopped. Ahead of them, standing among the trees, was a Virac elder, the same one who had touched his forehead days earlier. The elder's glowing patterns shimmered softly, and their large, almond-shaped eyes locked onto Alex's. "They're here," Emily whispered, stepping closer to him. The elder raised a hand, gesturing for them to follow. Without hesitation, Alex and Emily obeyed, moving deeper into the forest. The rest of the world faded away, leaving only the sound of their footsteps and the faint hum of the glowing symbols around them. After several minutes, they arrived at a clearing where several Virac were gathered. Stood a pedestal similar to the one Alex had seen in the dome. On top of it rested another crystal, larger and more intricate than any they'd encountered before. The elder approached Alex and placed a hand on his chest. Directly over the glowing marks, images flooded Alex's mind, once again scenes of starships rising into the sky, of planets being reborn, of civilizations thriving together. He saw humans and Virac working side by side, sharing knowledge and resources. It was a vision of hope, of unity, but it came with a warning. If humanity chose greed over cooperation, consequences would be catastrophic. When the vision ended, Alex staggered backward, gasping for breath. Emily steadied him, her face pale. "What did you see?" she asked. "They're offering us a choice," Alex said, his voice trembling. "A chance to help them rebuild or to walk away and let them fade." Emily glanced at the elder, then back at Alex. "And if we choose to help them, what happens then?" "I don't know," Alex admitted. "But I think it means trusting them completely and convincing Earth to do the same." Back at the campsite, Alex and Emily debated how to share what they'd learned with the rest of the team. They knew it wouldn't be easy, especially with tensions running high. But they also knew they couldn't keep it a secret forever. As they sat by the fire that night, Alex made a decision. He would tell the team everything, not just about the marks and the crystals, but about the classified files Laura had shown him. It was a risk, but it was the only way forward. Little did he know, his choice would set off a chain of events that would test the bonds of trust between humans and Viracand, force him to confront the true cost of loyalty. This concludes Part 4 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional parts. Document. Part 5. The fire crackled softly as the team gathered around it, their faces illuminated by its warm glow. The night was quiet, save for the distant hum of the forest and the occasional rustle of leaves. Alex Carter sat cross-legged. On the ground, his hands resting on his knees, he could feel the weight of what he was about to say pressing down on him, making it hard to breathe. Beside him, Emily Dawson gave him a small, encouraging nod, her expression calm but serious. Alex cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. "There's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice steady despite the storm of nerves inside him. "Something that changes everything." The team fell silent, their eyes fixed on him. Da. Laura Bennett leaned forward slightly, her brow furrowed with concern. Even Dr. Ryan Brooks, who usually had something critical to say, stayed quiet, waiting for Alex to continue. "Last night, Emily and I went into the forest," Alex said slowly, choosing his words carefully. "We followed a pull from the marks on my skin. It led us to a structure, a kind of dome. Inside, we found more crystals, like the ones they've given us. But there was also something else." Paused, glancing at Emily before continuing. "One of the Virac elders showed me visions of their past, their struggles, and their hopes for the future. They're asking for our help. It's not just mine or Sam's, but all of ours." "What kind of help?" Laura asked, her voice cautious. "They want us to repair something," Alex explained. "A starship. It's buried beneath the planet's surface. Damage beyond what they can fix alone. They believe humanity has the knowledge and tools to bring it back online. In return, they've offered access to their technology that could change life on Earth." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the crackling of the fire. Ryan was the first to speak, his tone skeptical. "And why should we trust them? How do we know this isn't some kind of trick?" "It's not a trick," Alex insisted, his voice rising slightly. "I've seen what they've been through, the sacrifices they've made. They're desperate, yes, but they're not lying. They need us. And if we refuse..." Ryan pressed. "What happens then?" "Don't know," Alex admitted. "But I think it would mean losing their trust forever, maybe putting both our species in danger." Emily chimed in, her voice calm but firm. "This isn't just about helping them. It's about proving that we can work together, that we're capable of cooperation instead of exploitation. If we turn our backs now, it sends a message that humanity isn't ready for that kind of relationship." Laura rubbed her temples, clearly conflicted. "Even if we wanted to help, how do we explain this to Earth Command? They'll see it as an opportunity to take advantage of the situation." "That's why we have to be careful," Alex said. "We can't let them find out about the starship the crystals till we've figured out the best way to handle this. For now, we keep it between us." Ryan scoffed, shaking his head. "You're asking us to lie to our own people? To risk everything based on the word of aliens we barely understand?" "It's not just their word," Alex countered. "It's what I've seen, what I've felt. This is bigger than any one of us." The argument continued late into the night, voices rising and falling as each member of the team weighed the risks and rewards. By the time they finally dispersed, no decision had been reached. Some, like Laura and Emily, seemed willing to give Alex's plan a chance. Others, like Ryan, remained firmly opposed. The next morning, Alex woke up feeling drained. The debate had left him exhausted, and the glowing marks on his skin throbbed faintly, as if responding to his stress. He stepped outside the tent and found Emily already awake, sitting by the edge of the campsite with a notebook in her lap. "You okay?" she asked, looking up at him. "I will be," Alex replied, sitting down beside her. "It's just a lot to process." Emily nodded sympathetically. "Do you think they'll come around?" "I hope so," Alex said, though his voice lacked conviction. "But even if they don't, we still have to try. The Virac trusted us for a reason. We can't let them down." As they spoke, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Alex and Emily exchanged startled looks before standing up to investigate. The sound was coming from the direction of the forest, where the trees glowed brighter than usual. Without hesitation, they grabbed their gear and headed toward the source. When they arrived, they found a group of Virak waiting for them. Among them was the elder who had touched Alex's forehead days earlier. The elder gestured for them to follow, leading them deeper into the woods. After several minutes, they reached a clearing unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The center stood a massive stone altar surrounded by glowing runes. Atop the altar rested a cluster of crystals, pulsating with a soft, rhythmic light. "This is it," Emily whispered, her voice filled with awe. "Whatever they've been preparing us for, it's happening now." The elder approached Alex and placed a hand on his chest once again. A surge of energy coursed through him, stronger than before. Visions flooded his mind, images of the starship. Buried deep underground, its systems dormant but intact. He saw himself and Sam working alongside the Virak, repairing the ship piece by piece. And he saw the moment when it finally launched, carrying both species toward a shared future. When the vision ended, Alex stumbled backward, gasping for breath.
Oh.
The elder handed him one of the crystals from the altar, its surface warm and vibrating. Gently in his palm, and without a word, the Virak turned and disappeared into the forest, leaving Alex and Emily alone. Back at the campsite, Alex and Emily shared what had happened with Laura and the rest of the team. While some were still hesitant, others began to see the potential benefits of helping the Virak. Over the next few days, they worked together to devise a plan. They would locate the starship and assess its condition using the crystals to guide them. Once they had enough information, they would decide how to proceed. The journey to the starship was long and grueling, guided by the glowing symbols in the forest and the pulsating crystals. The team trekked through dense foliage and rocky terrain. Along the way, they encountered remnants of ancient Virak technology, fragments of machinery half buried in the ground, glowing faintly with residual energy. Finally, after days of travel, they reached their destination, a massive cavern hidden beneath the roots of the forest. Inside, the starship loomed before them, its sleek design covered in dust and debris. Despite its damaged state, it radiated power, humming softly as if alive. "This is incredible," Emily murmured, her voice filled with wonder. "If we can fix this, it could change everything." "But it won't be easy," Alex added, his tone serious. "We'll need to work together, humans and Virak alike, and we'll need to make sure Earth doesn't interfere." As the team set to work examining the ship, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every now and then, he caught glimpses of glowing figures moving among the shadows, Virak elders observing silently, their expressions unreadable. He knew they were counting on him, trusting him to honor the bond they had formed. But as the days passed, Alex began to feel the toll of the task ahead. The glowing marks on his skin grew brighter, almost painful at times, and the dreams returned more vivid than ever. He saw flashes of destruction, of betrayal, of choices that would shape the fate of both species. Each vision left him shaken, unsure of whether he was strong enough to carry the burden placed upon him. One night, as he lay awake staring at the ceiling of his tent, Alex realized the truth. Helping the Virak wasn't just about fixing a starship or gaining access to advanced technology. It was about proving that humanity could rise above its flaws, that it could choose compassion over greed, trust over fear, and for the first time, since arriving on Virak Prime, Alex felt ready to face whatever came next. This concludes part 5 of the story. Let me know if you'd like to proceed with additional parts.